Well, good Monday morning to you, and welcome to our live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy with Doctors Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition, located on Callan Road in Gulfport, just south of Pash Road. Our phone lines are 896-0713, 800-349-0713. If you have a question for the doctors, you can give them a call, or give us a call. If you don't want to be on the air with them, well, you can just pass the question along to our operator, and they'll pass the question along to us. But we always try to pick up a different topic. Something that, of course, affects your health. And today, ladies, this is kind of directed, well, I say kind of, this is directed.
This is directed, definitely.
This is, yeah, not kind of.
We do not see men with it.
Well, no, I doubt it. If you, well, hey, nowadays with some of the, I wasn't going to get into that.
We don't want to go there.
Nope, anyway, PCOS, which is Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome. It's a problem which a woman's hormones are out of balance. It can cause problems with your periods, make it difficult to get pregnant. It may also cause unwanted changes in the way you look. And if it isn't treated over time, it can lead to serious health problems such as diabetes and heart disease. Why are you laughing?
Well,
I'm just saying, when they start growing,
well,
whiskers.
yeah, okay.
yeah, definitely
change the way you
excessive
look.
hair,
Facial hair, yeah.
acne, and weight gain. That's a few of the big ones. And yes, as all the sites will say, it will lead to diabetes, but there is much research and many people that think actually PCOS is actually caused probably by a pre-diabetic syndrome anyway. So it's probably the sugar handling problem that causes the PCOS in the first place. So yes, later in life they tend to be diabetic because that's probably what starts the problem, is just the inability to handle sugar properly. There's even the NIH, which is the National Institute for Health, has recommended that they change the name for PCOS because not everybody has cysts on their ovaries, which it stands for Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome. It's a syndrome. It's a compound list of symptoms and problems, and you don't have to have cysts on your ovaries to actually have PCOS. So that's why the NIH says really we probably need to rename it because it's not a great name for it, but for now, that's what it's called.
So I guess we're going to have a naming contest.
Okay. Well, let's start with this. At what age can you get PCOS? I mean, is it something older women usually get? Or?
It's women in childbearing years.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we see an awful lot of young females, we're talking about teens, that start showing those signs, that the metabolic syndrome signs, which is the sugar handling stuff. And we're seeing more and more teenagers now, young teens, showing the signs of that metabolic syndrome or that insulin resistance. All that leads to this thing. So, and sure enough, as they get a little older now, we've seen some that were that way, say 10 years ago. Well, now they're up into their early 20s and they're having difficulty with pregnancy because, the PCOS is there and it's causing all kinds of issues for them, hormonally.
And a lot of people don't realize what it is. That's one of the reasons we wanted to do a show. It affects 10% of probably all women in childbearing years. And we think it's probably going to go up some. We're seeing a lot of younger teenagers, probably even a higher percentage of the younger people are having it nowadays. So you're going to see even a higher percentage have that. And so it's a lot of people out there. You think it's just a couple people here and there, but it's not. But a lot of people don't realize they have it. It's, they tend to have one of the things that we see a lot in the young women are very irregular cycles. They may have 1 or 2 a year.
Really?
Yes, there's a lot that come to us that have very few cycles. And so they only have it every once in a while. And they only, and they do start having all that weight. Weight gain is one that you see a lot. Now, it doesn't have to be. You can have PCOS and be thin. We've seen some little bitty skinny people have PCOS. And they've even shown that you can have an adrenal PCOS, where the adrenal PCOS is a little bit different because it's probably due to stress. And even over.
Lord knows we all get enough of that every day.
So we got our share of that.
Stress can affect it.
Yes, we do.
One thing that a lot of the research is showing, and a lot of people probably agree on, is that there's probably a genetic component somehow. Whether it be diabetes in your family or a sugar handling problem in the family, a lot of times it does have a genetic component, but not always. But that is one thing. But there's still so much unknown about it. But from what we've seen, there's no doubt that it's linked to blood sugar. And they do know it's linked to what they call hyperinsulinemia, which is too much insulin.
Insulin's a bad guy. I mean, we got to have him.
Got to have it
Yeah,
for sugar,
right.
But he causes a lot of problems,
when it starts affecting that luteinizing hormone, which is a hormone that's made in the brain, pituitary gland,
Right.
it's actually made there, and it tells the ovaries what to make. So when it's not working properly, the ovaries don't work properly. And the pattern that we tend to see with PCOS in most people, you can't say everybody fits exactly the same, but you have normal to high estrogen, you have high androgen, which is testosterone, DHEA, and you have low progesterone. And so that's why the cycle tends to be pretty messed up. And
Very
fertility
irregular.
tends to be affected because you can't get pregnant without progesterone. So definitely there's a lot to it. There's a lot of stuff that goes to it. But a lot of people listening may not have a grandchild or, a
Right.
kid or, somebody out there that they know is having some of these problems and they're not really sure what it is. That's why we wanted to talk about it, because we do see it so often. And a lot of people that come in, we look at their lab work and we're like, oh, you probably have PCOS. And they're like, what's that? No one's ever mentioned it to them. And so we did want to let people know it's a very common thing out there, and then there are things you can do about it. And I think it's better to do something about it when you're a teenager, not wait until you are trying to get pregnant. Because yes, it affects fertility and pregnancy, and the earlier you do something about it, to me, the better.
896-0713, 800-349-0713. Our phone lines are open to you if you have a question regarding the subject this morning. Just real quick, you said it, something that starts. Can it be something that's hereditary?
Well, they do say it's a genetic factor.
The thing about hereditary, and it confuses a lot of people, if your genes are there that predisposes you, and or those genes aren't really equipped to handle the modern diet, and that takes in most of us actually. When you look back at it, it takes, they say, 30 to 40,000 years for our genes to actually modify and change. Well, our diet has changed dramatically in the past 100 years.
Oh, yes.
And our genes haven't caught up with it. So our genes are still, the ones that we used 30, 40,000 years ago. And the modern diet is totally wackoed compared to our genes. So it's not that it's, you're just going to have PCOS. It's genetically that you're not going to be able to handle the high carb sugar load that you got in the diet today. That's the problem with it, we see. Yeah.
Well, 896-0713, 800-349-0713. Julie from D'Iberville asks, my teenage daughter is having this problem. The doctor wants to put her on birth control. What do you think?
No.
Well, actually, birth control does not technically treat PCOS. It's a Band-Aid. It is not treating the cause of the problem. And we always say you want to get to the cause of the problem, because birth control is not going to help her fertility down the road. It's not going to help her when she gets in her 20s and decides to get pregnant. So there's a lot of stuff. And then birth control starts a whole other set of problems. We see that it affects the stress hormones, it affects the adrenals, it affects the thyroid. So it does affect a lot of other things. Really, diet change is one of the big things that you want to do. And to me, that's one of the hardest things to get a teenager to do, but if they want to be better and feel better, then they'll do it. Now, there are a couple other natural products that we use, and even in medicine, they use metformin, which is a diabetic medication, to help with this problem, because if you control the hyperinsulinemia, you can help control the problem. We use something called berberine max, which is, in double-blind studies, works as well as metformin for hyperinsulinemia.
Right.
So when there are natural things that you can do and change the diet, and we have women all the time that come in, and if they do the things that we tell them and change the diet, you can control PCOS. Not to say that you completely get rid of it, because if you're predisposed to it, and if you go back to eating the way you were before after it's better, you're going to get it. It's going to come right back.
All right, 896-0713, 800-349-0713. Our phone lines are open to you. We'll be right back in just a moment. Our Monday morning live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy. And welcome back to our Monday morning live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition, located on Callan Road in Gulfport, south of Pash Road. Talking about PCOS from this morning. And Luann from Long Beach is on the phone lines with us. Good morning, Luann. You have a question for the doctors.
Yes, sir. I'm not calling about the subject matter you're...
Okay.
That's
okay.
quite all right.
That's okay.
Okay. But I am a patient of y'all's.
Okay.
And I have been taking the digestive enzymes with the betaine for my heartburn, and it has not helped me. What else do you recommend that I can take?
You probably want it. There's a couple of reasons. Sometimes people that have H. pylori, which is a stomach bacteria, nothing helps with the acid reflux when it's H. pylori. So getting tested for H. pylori is one of the things that you can do.
That'd be the next step.
And that would be the next step. When people don't respond to the digestive enzymes, we usually say that's a possibility to have the H. pylori. And also, I mean, maybe probiotics will help, but usually
I'm on the probiotic.
you are. Okay, well then you want to probably get tested for the H. pylori.
Now,
And you do that in your
We
office?
do.
we do.
We do.
Yeah.
But call us because there's a few things you can't do 2 weeks beforehand. So we got to make sure you're not doing any of the things. It's kind of a test. It's a breath test.
You have
so
to study for
you
it.
breathe in a bag.
Skydiving, you know, surfing
Yeah.
off Maui or anything.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
just give us a call and we'll tell you what you can't do the week before. A week or two, there's
Okay.
2 weeks before, and then make sure that the test is accurate if you're going to do it. Okay?
Right.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll see y'all in a few weeks.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks,
All right.
Luann.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Luann. 896-0713, 800-349-0713. Our phone lines are open to you. We're talking about PCOS, but if you have a question about something
Right.
else,
You
you are
can
more
call.
than welcome to call, because that's what this show is all about, teaching you to live healthy and be healthy in your life, and make it a lot easier for you. And of course, one of the things always we talk about lifestyle change, and
Yes.
and I know you talked about 100 years ago, things that we did 100 years ago we don't do now, because 100 years ago we didn't have a fast food restaurant on every corner that
Exactly.
we could run into and grab a burger or taco or whatever we wanted to.
Yeah, it's something that I always kind of talk to people when they come in, they're talking to us about their diet and stuff. I said, do you watch the Food Channel? And especially Guy, and he does the diners, drive-ins, and dives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to all these places that people, I mean, if you watch, I mean, the places are packed with people eating out. And if you look at what they start, I don't care what they start with. And the first thing they're going to put in, well, okay, we got this, we're going to put some water, and here's the brown sugar, here's the molasses. So, we're loading this stuff up. You can make anything taste good if you put enough sugar
even
with
the
it.
meat that you
Yeah.
see cooked at a lot of the places have sugar added. So even if you're eating something,
Why would you do that?
Because
Because
it
it
makes
tastes
it taste
better.
better.
I mean,
Sugar does
I put
taste
salt
good.
on mine,
I know,
on my
but
steaks and stuff.
They'll
and
actually
some
put
seasoning.
sugar
but-
on a steak, and because if you ever, sometimes you look at that steak at home and you think, mine don't look like theirs did, and you realize that they put that sugar on it, it glazes it,
It starts to caramelize on the
and
outside.
it really makes it look pretty, and of course
and
tastes pretty
tastes
good
better.
too.
So
yeah.
diet is a big thing. Now, another thing that affects the PCOS and people don't get as much as is exercise.
Yeah,
They've definitely
inactivity.
shown that exercise helps with hyperinsulinemia, which is probably one of the main causes of the PCOS. So exercise does help that. Now, over-exercise does not. They've
can
actually
actually cause
found,
problems,
yeah,
right.
people that do the excessive exercise and the marathons and the, they tend to have higher cortisol and tend to have more of the adrenal type of PCOS because of the stress hormone being so high. So you can overdo exercise, but most people do not. Most people, that is not their problem. I always say
Yeah,
the
that's a rare
majority.
individual.
It
That's
is
a rare
not
individual, right,
over-exercising.
yeah,
It's actually the under-exercising that's a problem.
Yeah,
And so in
inactivity
these
is good.
teenagers that are starting to have the problems, definitely diet change number one. Got to change that diet. And they need to change it anyway for overall health, because as they get
Right.
older, we see the younger people right now having more and more issues. We're seeing the problems in the teenagers that their parents didn't see until their 40s and 50s.
Or
and
60s.
other symptoms that go along with the PCOS can be high triglycerides, high cholesterol, pre-diabetes. We're seeing all that now in teenagers. So we're seeing it younger and younger and younger.
Yeah, when you start seeing teens now that have these problems that used to, we saw them in, like she said, 40s, 50s, 60s, that's when people started developing. Because, you talk to people and say, was there any diabetes in your family? Yeah, well, grandma had diabetes, but she didn't develop the diabetes till she was like 70-something, and here they are 30-something, and they've already got it. I mean, they're just full-blown. And you look at that, and that's like a 40-year reduction of it, of what's going on. And that just shows you, that our
diet
diet and
has
lifestyle is catching up with us, and not in a good way, but it's catching up with
And when
us.
we do talk about the diabetes associated with PCOS, we are talking about type 2 diabetes. Type 1 has nothing.
Well, Mississippi,
No,
Type 1 has nothing to do with it.
Mississippi's
so type 1 is
number
totally
one
different.
in type 2 diabetes.
Yes.
And we're
Yes.
number one in obesity.
Yes.
Exactly. And obesity is one of the things that goes along with PCOS as well. And like we said, not everybody has to, you don't have to have every symptom. But you can have, usually a cluster, usually the high androgens, which is the testosterone, DHEA, things like that, are one that we usually do see.
And the high cortisol.
And the high
With
cortisol,
stress hormone.
yeah.
That's kind of one of the most
And that's
common
one
ones
reason why
nowadays.
we don't really, if you look at birth control pills, almost every person on birth control pills, I can honestly say about 90% of the ones we test have high cortisol. So you're not really helping the underlying problem. You may help regulate the cycle. You may, because of giving them estrogen, lower some of the testosterone and may help some of the facial hair and the acne, but in the long run, you're really not fixing the underlying high insulin, you're not really fixing the underlying problem.
And that's where one of the products that we're talking about, we're actually going to have it on sale this week, the DIM, or the diindolyl methane.
DIM.
DIM, yeah.
DIM, yeah.
And what DIM does is it helps metabolize these hormones. And proper metabolism of the hormones helps tremendously in changing that hormone structure. Wonderful product, and really it comes from your cruciferous vegetables. Nobody's going to go out and eat 10, 15 pounds of cabbage or something a day, that's for sure. And that's kind of what it would take.
Not wander too far away from the bathroom.
That's right. That's right.
Sorry, I had to
high
go
fiber
there.
diet there. Okay, but you can take your DIM, and we see some really big changes with that because it really does change that hormone metabolism. And you take that, couple it with some of the diet and lifestyle things that we talk about. Yeah, we've seen some remarkable turnarounds in these things.
Wow.
They really have. And when you look at one of my favorite ways of looking at medicine or trying to get people to look at medicine today is, if you take an aspirin for a headache, your headache is not that you're deficient in aspirin, okay? Your body is, and if you got PCOS, your body's not deficient in, say, a birth control pill. It's got some hormone irregularities caused by the hyperinsulinemia that Janine talked about so much earlier, and these metabolic syndromes. And so that's kind of the issue.
And you really want to get to the root of the problem to actually help with the problem.
All right. 896-0713, 800-349-0713. We'll be back with our final segment and this week's special coming up in just a moment on our Monday morning live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy. And welcome back to our Monday morning live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition. They're located on Cowan Road in Gulfport, south of Pass Road. They're open 10 to 5:30, Monday through Friday, 11 to 2 on Saturdays. Jim and Janine are there on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays.
Right.
And then Dr. Mays is there on Wednesdays and Fridays. So you'd be glad to go by there. You do not need an appointment, and consultations are absolutely free. Find that in a regular doctor. Anyway, this week's special, DIM, we've talked about it in the past.
Yes, we talk about DIM, and the other thing that we got is the berberine. And the berberine, like Janine said, there's been some really neat studies on berberine and actually comparing it to metformin. And really some surprising results.
And and it also compared it to Avandio, which is another diabetic medication. But what it helps with is the hyperinsulinemia. It helps with the insulin resistance, which is kind of the underlying problem.
Right.
Berberine has also been shown to help with the lipids some too. So with the cholesterol and the triglycerides, especially in these teenagers, you don't want to have to put them on a cholesterol medication. So the Berberine Max even helps with that. So that is one thing that they can do. DIM is something that we have people do for all different kind of reasons, not just PCOS.
Right.
DIM helps regulate the cycle. So anybody having irregular cycles, the DIM can help regulate. One thing, it actually can kind of trigger the ovaries to make better hormones. And
more progesterone, for instance.
Right, more progesterone is one of the big ones because, and it also takes the estrogens and keeps them from being as harmful. So it's used for estrogen dominance, which is what PCOS has, is estrogen and testosterone dominance both. So the DIM and the Berberine Max are two things that you can do for the problem that are natural. And like he said, the DIM comes from cruciferous vegetables, so broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. But it takes about 10 pounds of those vegetables to equal what's in the pills.
And as you said,
I can't even think about eating.
Yeah.
I can't even think about eating a few Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
The little miniature cabbages?
Yeah.
No. Not to hang around you very much during the daytime. So, anyway, so these are issues, of course, that women have, and guys, we'll tell you something here in just a moment. So.
We're going to have a show for guys next week.
Next week is going to be your turn. We'll tell you about that
we're
here.
talking more about women. But this is such a big issue. Like I said, 10% of all women in childbearing years. And so, if people are out there and say, I have some of these symptoms, I do have the hormonal imbalance, I do have an irregular cycle, I've had fertility issues, I have acne, I have weight gain, especially in the middle. All those, and even depression. They find that people that have PCOS are 60 to 70% more likely to be depressed than other people. Anxiety, depression, that all goes along with it. So if you have all these symptoms, you might start looking at maybe PCOS is a problem.
Okay. Connie from Wiggins is on the phone with us this morning. Good morning, Connie. You have a question for the doctors?
Good morning. I'm
Good
from
morning.
Wayman, Mississippi. But my question is, when I was younger, I had irregular periods for years, and my mother took me to doctors, and they finally put me on birth control pills, which did not help at all. Uh, I had one child when I was 23, and then after that, it seemed like I couldn't get pregnant. I went to fertility doctors and everything else. I eventually got up to like 336 pounds. I had a weight loss procedure back in the old days where they had the stomach staples, and I got pregnant immediately. I now have two daughters that are one's 32 and one's 33. Both of them are gaining weight. Both of them had, but I've never heard of this before. Both of them had problems with acne.
Yes.
They both started. One daughter has gotten married. They're trying to have a baby. Nothing is helping, and we have never heard of this before.
Yes, actually,
what can she do?
they say that women that have PCOS, which definitely you sound like you did, have kids that have it, especially daughters.
Well, it is. That's the
And
genetic
so,
thing.
yeah, the genetic thing. They do find that it does run in families. And so definitely, we have people all the time that come in with these symptoms, and we can help. So diet change is a big one.
She's gone as far as to Atlanta to talk to a fertility doctor, but I feel like I've let them down because I never knew anything about
Well, no,
it.
a lot of people don't, which is one reason we want to do this show. We have so many people that when they come in, they've never heard of it, they didn't know anything about it, and they didn't realize what it was. And you got to know what the problem is before you can know what to do about it.
Okay, well, they're in Mobile. How do I get in touch with you?
Actually, you can either have them call us or you can call us, but we actually can deal with them in Mobile. We can talk to them over the phone.
There's a number down there that you can get to. Actually, the 897-0070, or you can call have them call 800-824-0194, or go to our Doctors Nutrition website. There, websites there below their names, and that they can get to us that way. Because if they can just call us, I mean, it won't cost them anything to call.
And we have a lot of people. I have a lot of, just a little story, I have a lot of people that come in their 40s, and they have the hormonal imbalances, and they've been trying to get pregnant their whole life and didn't, and they weren't trying anymore. Of course, they're getting past that age, and they really weren't doing that. They just were tired of the symptoms. And we'll put them on.
32 and 33, it's beginning to look kind of bleak. That
but we put them on we usually start them on the DIM to help the hormonal imbalance, and so many of them pop up pregnant. I get blamed so much for people getting pregnant. And I tell them, I say, if you haven't gotten pregnant in 20 years, if you're not wanting to now, you got to be careful. And they all say, there's no way I'll get pregnant. And I have a lot of people. So there are things that you can do, and even with them in their 30s, it's not too late.
Oh, no.
But they are going to have to make some changes, and they have to be willing to change their diet. So I do say that is part of it, is willing to change their diet, but they definitely can make some changes.
So you're saying the 897-0070 number, Paul?
Yes, that's our local number.
Yeah, that's our local number.
And we do have an 800 number that rings to the local number, which is 800-824-0194. Although everybody has cell phones nowadays, so it really don't make a difference anymore. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for your call. About run out of time here. So next week, it's the guy's turn.
Yep.
Yeah.
Talking about prostate enlargement.
Yes.
We did younger girls, but we're kind of doing a little bit older. Most men over 50 are going to have some sort of prostate enlargement. And not all, but it is very common, so that's what we're going to be talking about next week, and things you can do to help.
Okay, talking about symptoms and things like that. And of course, and I'm sure the old lifestyle things and sugar is going to be one of the things on top of that.
That's not always the biggest thing.
Really?
Not quite as much.
I'm surprised.
Your bad fat is probably worse, the trans fats and stuff, for the prostate.
Yeah.
So when you start talking the bad fat, not your good fat, but your bad fat is really bad for the prostate. So it's a little bit different in prostate.
Okay, guys, get your pens and papers out for next week.
Yeah, that's it.
Of course, I don't expect a whole lot of calls for the guys, but it's our pride. What can I say? Anyway, thank you again for being with us. The doctors will be in about 10 o'clock this morning, and they're there 10 to 5:30 Monday through Friday. And Saturdays, 11 to 2. Got a good staff on, but the doctors aren't there on Saturday. They got to have the day off. Have a great day. We'll see you next Monday. Join us tomorrow morning for our live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about prostate health for you guys.
Yeah, join us tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock on WLOX CBS.
Guys, tune in tomorrow morning for our live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about prostate health and what we can do about it.
Join us tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock on WLOX CBS.